a boy talking about because he took a woman to Capitol Grill, he supposed to get something out of it, and that if she gonna wait to get in the bed with him, then he need to wait to spend money on her. And that right there, that just broke boy talk. That just broke boy talk. That don't even make no sense. It's like how you take somebody out to eat and expect them to put their whole life on the line. Like when a woman lay down with a man, she could get up with a STD, sexually transmitted disease. She also getting up with a spiritually transmitted disease. She also breaking her covenant with God. She's sinning all the way against God, regardless of what her religion is. She's sinning against her God, getting into bed with a man that she's not married to, all because the man took her out to get something to eat. It's like how you gonna equate the act that can bring about a baby, that could bring about an STD, that could bring about all this other stuff, sin for going out to eat? Man, y'all talking crazy. It's like we in a society of punks. Oh, cucumber and the booty men out here sitting out here pretending you like women, sitting on podcasts saying stupid stuff. And then the men being the likes, liking the stuff. It's like we need to hold these grown boys accountable as grown men and say, listen, Playboy, that don't even make no sense. So what we not doing as men is we not thinking like if somebody talking about our daughter, we looking at women outside of that like they just somebody else foreign. Think about it if it's your daughter. Hey, one of y'all sent me a video of a boy talking about
him every day or however often for 90 days before he decides to invest in you as you are going to be invested in him. For a man to vet you, it is the standard to spend money. Okay, for me to get your time, I have to spend money somewhere. In most cases, I got to take you on a Capitol Grill. That's going to cost money. I got to take you at a place that you deem is valuable for you to sit at, right? Which is going to cost me money, instead of saying, hey, you know what? The realistic thing is, if we just sat here and talked to each other for 90 days, and I'm like, okay, cool. If I FaceTime you, I can't FaceTime you more than, once or twice a week unless I had actually started to invest money in you for 90 days. I'm wrong. So I'm not saying that your box is in exchange for money. What I'm saying is that for me to actually get your time, I have to spend money. But yeah, I can spend your money and get your time, but never get nothing out of it is not fair to a man. When I hear
ooh, Chile, the streets are hot. The streets are hot right now. Listen, stay hydrated. We're going to be talking to you guys about the debate, I guess, or the exchange of videos. The video was released originally by, I think, This Conversation on their YouTube channel. By tonight's conversation YouTube channel. Rico, who's very well known in terms of YouTube streets. He's also on We 8 Table as well. So he also talks quite a bit about relationships there. This particular video, I wanted to bring both videos. I'm losing my voice at this rate. I want to bring both sides of the video. Tony Gaskins does a response in terms of the video to what Rico has said. And I want to shed a bit more light to what's actually happening. It's kind of crazy, and I'll be real with you. My unpopular opinion, I'm going to give it. I actually kind of understand where Rico is coming from. And I'm going to give you a breakdown as to why I understand. But I also understand where Tony's coming from. I know exactly what he's trying to get at. I know exactly what he's trying to implement. I think what's happened here is there are still two conversations going on. Sometimes we have multi-layered conversations and we don't make nuances, and we don't also make clear deductions in terms of who we're aiming the conversation at. Thus, we have multiple conversations or multi-layers and only certain things being addressed. So if you want to hear my unpopular opinion, make sure you like, you share, you subscribe, you click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. I appreciate you guys. Stay locked and stay loaded. Don't forget as well, join the Mineral Gang. You understand? Listen, you already know what it is, baby. Let's get into the video. Let me break down what I mean by this. Good morning for some of you guys, and good afternoon for those of you in UK. All right, cool. Let me go through first and foremost Rico's actual video again once more. Let's just play it.
A woman say, make a man wait 90 days before you have sex. If I said, okay, then you need to wait 90 days before he takes you out on a date. You need to wait 90 days before he spends a single dollar on you. You need to go ahead and talk to him every day or however often for 90 days before he decides to invest in you as you are going to be invested in him. For a man to vet you.
I want to pause it there first and foremost, okay? Because I think what's happened is that people are going to run ahead to an ideology straight away. But I want to take it bit by bit. The very first thing he's talking about here is, number one, investment. But he's also talking about the fact that if we're talking about the 90-day rules, this is why I felt like Tony Gaskin's response might have been out to a different conversation, because when Tony Gaskin starts speaking about his response, he's talking about a woman sinning against God, a woman laying down, getting pregnant. Bro, if she's doing 90 days, she ain't even thinking about God. 90 days rule isn't even about God. Can I be real with you? The 90-day rule is not about God, because we should be waiting to marriage. So therein lies the problem straight away. We're already hitting an angle which is not even on the angle. And I think that's where I said that sometimes we can miss each other in conversations. But I'm going to replay it from the very beginning and just get this aspect quickly. Let me just, okay, I want to get the very beginning so we can get what he's saying here, right? Oh, okay.
And wait 90 days before you have sex.
So that's the first point in here. First and point in case is the type of woman we're dealing with. He says, if a woman says, you know what, we're waiting, you have to wait 90 days before we have sex. This is not the woman that's saying she's trying to be abstinent. This is not the woman that she's trying to, who's trying to abstain. This isn't the woman who's trying to, this isn't the woman that's trying to think about God first, right? So this is not that type of woman. This is someone who is probably having sex and using the 90-day rule to be able to use as a tool of discernment. That's the first and foremost thing, right? Cool. Let's break it a bit more.
If I said, okay, then you need to wait 90 days before he takes you out on a date. You need to wait 90 days before he spends a single dollar on you.
I want to pause right there too, right? So he then starts speaking about the fact that if you're saying 90 days wait till sex, would it be okay to say wait 90 days for a man to spend any kind of money and dollars on you or to take you out, right? And I think this is where we need to start having nuanced conversation and being real about what you're actually aiming at, because this is where I also lose Rico too, but I get where he's coming from, right? But I'm losing him. So in this aspect, you have to make a clear deduction. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to wife this girl? Are you in the mindset of being intentional in your dating, or do you just want sex? Because I think if we don't make that deduction when we're first starting, we're already gonna have issues, because the goals are different. Meaning the conversation we're having is different. You know what I mean? I honestly want people to understand, what is your goal? Because if your goal is to get to know her because you're intentional about dating, forget it, the money situation will even shift, because that's not going to be your goal. If you're talking about sex and you just want to enter body, you understand? You want to enter body, then understand your goal is also different from the person who wants a relationship. Therefore, your transactional points are different. But I feel like what happens with Rico's point, and not just Rico's, men sometimes in general's point, gets meshed together. Both the idea of I want sex whenever I want it, but then I want a relationship whenever I want it too. You can't have both meshing in your point, because it gets confusing. If you want sex and you know it's transactional, I spend money, I take you out, I do this, there's a game that's out to play. Let's keep that real as well. When it comes to men and women, there's a game that is played. And in this instance, I told you about how men and women are, and both men and women want this game. Women don't want to, there are some women out there that will happily have sex with you and they're not really looking for a relationship, but they also want the game. The game is treat me nice and I'm going to give you a slice. Okay? And you know, the same principle works with men. Treat me nice, I'll give you a slice. When women just want men's money, there's a way to treat that man to exchange for his money. And in the exchange, your time can be exchanged for money. I very much hear women say, okay, give my body over for what? A dinner date. Well, there are women out here giving dinner dates to try and get money. They're giving their time for money. We all do exchanges depending on what your exchange rate is and what you actually want and desire, right? So the reality is, what do you actually want as a goal? What is the end goal here? What are you trying to achieve, right? Are you here for the sex or you're here for the relationship? But if you're here for the sex, there's a game. There's often a game. Women don't want to look like they're hoes, hoxes, I call it that. Men don't want to look like they're simps, right? Okay? And there are varying categories of shades on that spectrum between both men and women, right? So a woman will entice the hand of a man to open up and give her money, for her time and sometimes even her body. And there are women out there too who are willing to open up the box for time and for money. It's the same on both sides. It's a game. There's no use complaining about the game. The only thing to do is to play the game. Complaining about the game won't ever make it change because society has set us in a particular way. All right? So we have to understand how the game works and understand what people are actually wanting. Right? This is the key point so that the argument doesn't become convoluted into different sections. And I don't know what position Rico's holding. If he's holding to get to know you is a loose term. And that's the issue we're having here. I want to get to know you. What do you mean you want to get to know me? Are you intentional about dating? Or get to know me? What do you mean? You want to have sex with me? Make it plain and clear so people know exactly where they stand. Right? Get to know you is a very loose, broad, general statement. And that's the issue we have, because then people start making arguments against the generality. That's the issue. Right? That's the issue that we have here. Right? Okay, we're gonna play a bit more of this clip and listen. Where's my water? Damn it, I left
Need to go ahead and talk to him every day or however often for 90 days before he decides to invest in you, as you are going to be invested in him. For a man to vet you, it is the standard to spend money. Okay?
Now, here's the part I understand where he's going with this, right? I think what he's trying to do at this point is trying to expose what's actually happening, right? I think this is a part where he's trying to expose what is actually happening. What he's saying in this conjunction, this part of his piece is an exposure. The game is this. So what he's saying is in the sense of the game is this. In order for me to get to know in order for me to have your time, I need to spend money. Because what I'm hearing is the complaint is about the game. I don't bother complaining about the game in a sense, right? But if apart from there's certain aspects, but we'll talk about it in a second, right? So in this aspect, you're saying the game is where he's complaining about the game, because what he's explaining is what happens on a daily basis in transactional aspects with human beings. So he's saying in this point, in order for me to get to know you, I have to spend my money to able to get to know you, which I agree to some degree. If you're trying to get to know a woman, you have to spend a little money. And that's not in all aspects, because going to the park is free. Okay, all right. Going for a coffee date is cheap. All right. So it's really important to again, and this goes back to my original point as what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? What is it you're trying to achieve? Are you here for the sex? Or are you here to get to know someone, as in you're being intentional in dating? Because again, this will get lost. The game is you pay and she gives you time. That's the game. And if you don't believe that game, when someone's getting to know you, why do you ask to go on a date? Or why does he ask to go on a date and you agree? Why not spend more time just talking on the phone? That's what he's going to propose after. But because he's making too many, because the intention is not clear, it gets lost. But the reality is, if you agree to go on a date, then the transactional aspect of it is I've paid for your time to get to know you. That's the black and white of it. It sounds horrible, but that is what it is. Right? Eureka says time is an equal exchange, according to you, because you set the exchange rate. If you're saying time is an equal exchange, how can time be an equal exchange to money? Let's actually deep it. Your time you can't get back. I can get money back. So really, is it a fair exchange in your aspect? It's not. But it's what you deem it to be worthy. And that's the important thing. What do you deem it to be worthy? I'm not saying anyone shouldn't. I'm saying, how do we because time is something that cannot be given. You spend an hour with me, you can't get that hour back. I spend $100 on you or £100 on you, I can get it back. So really, is it a fair exchange? No. But the reality is, what do you deem it to be? What do you deem as valuable? What do you deem the exchange rate to be? How do you feel is acceptable for you? Everyone's got to determine their level. Do you feel me? Now, of course, in our normal society, Dorika's absolutely right. Because in our day-to-day, right, in this aspect, you're absolutely right. In our day-to-day, spend money, you get her time, that's a normal exchange. We consider that to be a normal exchange. We consider it to be a normal exchange in that aspect. So yes, I get that point as well. So yes, you're absolutely right in that sense. All right, but the reality is there isn't a fair exchange when it comes to men and women, because and again, we're going to talk about gender roles. We're going to come to gender roles and how people play gender roles, and sometimes try to flout the gender roles. Not everybody, but some people try to flout the gender roles, right? So Dorika's made a great point. Time is equal to exchange. And she said, if we're both spending time together, that's both of us spending time. I agree. So I'm spending time and you're spending time, but I'm spending my money. So I've done two. But you're going to say that because I want you, I should do that. Right? That's what I'm saying about if we keep it black and white now, and we go to the crux of this transaction, I can see why he's complaining. I don't personally complain about it no more. There's no point, because the game is a game. But you need to know what your intentions are, right? And I understand that part of the game is also tied into my gender role as a man. And this is what we spoke about on the men's panel on Sunday about men being providers, and women were like, some women, a small minority of women, like we providers too. And it's like, but look at the roles that we're playing. You expect me to play a particular role. In this aspect, what you spoke about, Dorika, is absolutely critical and on point. You're absolutely right. If we're both spending time together, that's both of us spending time. Absolutely. But then I end up spending my money if I'm trying to get to know you, as a lot of women would expect. Not everybody, but a lot of women would expect that my time is valuable. You're asking for it. You pay. Okay. That's the game. I'm not complaining about it. I'm saying that's the game. So I'm spending my time, you're spending your time, and then I'm spending my money. That's where his complaint is coming from. And again, I don't particularly think it's I don't think it's a big thing. You know, so for me, I'm just kind of explaining where the argument comes from, because what happens is people lose the argument of what a person is trying to make. Again, we see the thingy, but we just go through with it because that is the game. You know, that's the game. Right? That's the game. Exactly, Life Watch. That's the equal. It's not a fair exchange, but that's the game. It's okay. We get over it. We move forward. It is what it is. You know, it is what it is. So, no biggie. Because if it was to be a fair exchange, when we first meet, you'd pay, I'd pay. Until we are sure that this is what we actually want, I'd pay, you pay. But the reality is we adhere to some gender norms and some gender roles, and we expect men to pay, right? Even before we've accrued into our position where we actually like each other, right? Before we even get to a point where we assess whether we like each other or not, we don't go Dutch. We don't go half and half. And it's because we adhere to a gender role norm. That's okay. That's okay. That's what it is. And that's the game. And that's what I'm saying to you, that if you understand the game and understand transactionally how it works, black and white, you can move forward from that and say it is what it is. Right? Cool. Let's listen a bit more to what he's saying.
For me to get your time, I have to spend money somewhere. In most cases, I got to take you on a Capitol Grill. That's going to cost money. I got to take you at a place that you deem is valuable for you to sit at, right? Which is going to cost me money, instead of saying, hey, you know what? The realistic thing is, if we just sat here and talked to each other for 90 days, and I'm like, okay, cool. If I FaceTime you, I can't FaceTime you more than, once or twice a week, unless I had actually started to invest money in you for 90 days. I'm wrong. So I'm not saying that your box is in exchange for money. What I'm saying is that for me to actually get your time, I have to spend money. But yeah, I can.
And this is the critical, essential point. What he's actually explaining It's just how the game works. This is the reality. What he's explaining is how the game works. And that's all it is. It's the game. That's all it is. It's just explaining how the game works. I have to pay for your time, and that's the reality. That's all. You know? That's all. I have to explain how the game works. That's all it can be. You know? And unfortunately that's again yes, he's explaining and complaining, Rico. Absolutely. Yeah. He is explaining and complaining. And the reason why he's complaining again is because the intention isn't clear as to what you're trying to achieve. If you don't explain what you're trying to achieve, you're gonna have an issue. If you just want sex, because the points at the end are making a lot of sense. But he started off with the whole 90-day rules, 90 days sex situation. So it just convolutes the whole argument, right? It convolutes the whole argument. Do you get what I'm saying? It convolutes the whole argument. And so then we're not sure what you're trying to achieve. Are you trying to have sex? Or are you trying to get to know me intentionally, wanting to date? Because if we're talking about investment now, you need to know what stocks you're investing in to know what kind of ROI you're actually expecting. What is the ROI you're expecting from this particular investment? If you're looking for sex, then the ROI is different from the one who's looking for a relationship. And then I feel like there are hidden. I feel like there are hidden stories of hurt that are playing into the scenario, or at least I don't want to say hurt. There are hidden examples of where people are scared of being taken advantage of, and that's the reality of things. What he's also adding by not saying into the conversation is there are women out there, and the reality is men don't mind spending money on a woman. The reality is men don't mind spending women on a money, but if you're not clear with your intention of what you expect, that's where we have an issue as men, and that's where women have an issue as women as well. Because what will happen is if I go into a situation paying for a date, knowing that I want sex from the situation at the end, but I never make it clear, and then she eats your food and then goes, right, and doesn't give you sex, why you're now disappointed. And the realist aspect of it, the reason why you're disappointed is because you never made your investment and your intention clear. You know, if you had made it clear about what you actually wanted in that investment, you would have understood that, fam, I gotta let her know from the jump. Yo, I'm not gonna lie to you, I just want sex. And she could have then told you, okay, cool, if that's what you want. Let me tell you what I'm also looking for in the aspect of this transaction. Since you want my body, here's what I'm looking to be taken out. I'm looking to be flew out. I'm looking for this. Maybe I don't want anything. Maybe I like you too, and I want you to hit it. Right? Maybe that too. Right? But complaining about this situation ain't going to help it. The game is the game. And within the game, what people don't even realize is that there are certain women, okay, who look at men or look at you as a man and are like, I don't mind giving it for free. Shoot. I just want to have a good I just want to have a good time. I just want him to, quote unquote, enter the Pussior, right? There are women who will give that up for free. But you want the one that says there's a sell price at the top. Because you're not coming with true intentions. So if you tell the person, this is what I'm on, the person can let you know, this is what I'm on. You know? So that's why I think also that his argument gets convoluted, is because there's an extra added conversation being added, which is in his head, that's coming through. That's not coming through the argument, which is not being spoken about, which is that men are afraid of being taken advantage of. Right? There are some men who get taken advantage of, and and again, what was your investment thing? Were you trying to get a relationship? Were you trying to get sex? That's also important. But there's some men who get taken advantage of. Some women who go on a date knowing they don't like you, okay, just to chow your food. There are some women like that. Just like there's some men out there who take you on a date just to blow your back out. Right? When you know that you don't like that person, yes, grow strong. It's taking advantage of somebody. If you know purposely you do not like this person and they're saying they want to take you out and you know you don't like them, you're out here taking advantage of them because you're going to get free food, knowing that he's going to pay, but you don't want them. You're aware of their intentions. That's taking advantage of somebody, right? And the same for the men too, you know. Okay. Yeah, so let me, this is last point.
Spend your money and get your time, but never get nothing out of it is not fair to a man.
So as he points at the very end, he said to spend your time and spend your money or to get nothing out of it is not a fair return. And I'm going to repeat this point. I feel like I'm repeating it for the last 20 minutes or so. What return were you expecting? And if we go by what he said, I can only go by what he said in the very beginning, which was you wanted sex. You wanted her not to have the 90-day rule. Then it's not about relationship. Okay? It's not about relationship. Okay? So if it's not about relationship at that aspect, but it's about her giving over her body, fine. So what you wanted was her body and you invested all that money and didn't get it. Why didn't you make it clear about your intention? And this is where we have to have a real conversation as men, right? Why didn't you make it clear that you wanted sex from the interaction? What you did was you went silent and had a silent expectation, which has the loudest consequences because people are not telling them the real stuff. You know? That's the real stuff. So in this aspect, if the problem is that the investment return doesn't meet what you were expecting, and it's because you haven't spoken correctly about what you actually wanted. Right? You haven't been clear about what you actually wanted. I hear that, Coco, but the funny thing about this is if we were to call it what we would actually call it, could we call it it's a form of sex work? It could be considered a form of sex work. You out here knowing that you out here getting sugar daddies. Y'all should know this as a form of sex work, guys. See, if I put it what it really is, right? It's not fun for anybody, right? Trying to call men broke, and the reason why because they're not spending money. This what you're describing is a form of sex work. Just to put it out there, when you get sugar daddies, it's a form of sex work. Nobody's free. I told you that the spectrums for both men and women is nonsense because it's bad on both sides. Nobody wins. Everybody has to just be real. There are parts of the game that no one likes. There are parts of the game that seem really crude, but it happens. It is what it is. So in the aspect of obviously what he was talking about, I don't agree with everything Rico said because I feel like expectations were not made very, very clear. Now, I want to go into Tony Gaskin's breakdown because he gives a good breakdown, you know. No, some of you going for the sugar daddies, right? Some of them are sugar daddies, KE. Some of them are sugar daddies. Y'all know. Okay. All right. And then some of them I would call them, I don't want to call them simps, but spending so you want to spend money to be around a beautiful girl. What would we call that? What would we call that? Maybe not a sugar daddy. So what would we call that? Sugar boy. What would you call that? Mm-hmm. What would you call that? Kaylee, what would you call Kaylee? Why are you running? Kaylee, what come back here, Kaylee. Why are you running? Kaylee, why are you running for? Get your ass back here, girl. I appreciate you, Katie. And I appreciate all the thoughts as well. Thank you, Grow Strong, as well. Contributing to conversation, Coco, as well. Ludwina, thank you, CXM, African Azatan, Selena T. Thank you, Kenya, as well. FW, thank you for contributing to the conversation because it's good. We're getting different thoughts, you know what I mean? And as I'm reading your comments, well, I'm just trying to also think there's aspects I'm missing as well. So I'm seeing it as well. Yeah. So let's get what Tony
out of it, and that if she gonna wait to get
hold
in
on,
the
let me renew this so that we get the exact okay.
y'all sent me a video of a boy talking about because he took a woman to Capitol Grill, he supposed to get something out of it, and that if she gonna wait to get in the bed with him, then he need to wait to spend money on her. And that right there, that just broke boy talk. That just broke boy talk. That don't even make no sense. It's like how you take somebody out to eat and expect them to put their whole life on the line. Like when a woman lay down with a man, she could get up with an STD, sexually transmitted disease. She also getting up with a spiritually transmitted disease. She also breaking her covenant with God. She's sinning all the way against God, regardless of what her religion is. She's sinning against her God, getting in the bed with a man that she's not married to, all because the man took her out to get something to eat. It's like, how you gonna equate the act that can bring about a baby, that could bring about an STD, that could bring about all this other stuff, sin, for going out to eat? Man, y'all talking crazy. It's like we in a society of punks. Oh, cucumber and the booty men out here sitting out here pretending you like women, sitting on podcasts saying stupid stuff, and then the men being the likes liking the stuff. It's like we need to hold these grown boys accountable as grown men and say, listen, Playboy, that don't even make no sense. So what we not doing as men is we not thinking like if somebody talking about our daughter, we looking at women outside of that like they just somebody else foreign. Think about it if it's your daughter. Hey, one of y'all sent me a video of a boy talking about
Now, I want to break this all the way down because, yes, when in Rome, that's exactly why I had a problem with Tony Gaskin's response. Is that he came for his sexuality, and there's no need for that. I don't like that kind of stuff. But I want to keep it all the way real because I gave the context. I don't want to. So first and foremost, if they're all about trying to have God as number one, waiting 90 days isn't that woman. So first and foremost, we're talking about two different women, which is why I said Tony already started on the wrong slope with this conversation because that woman that you're talking about ain't the woman that old boy is trying to go after. Okay, that ain't it. Okay, so that ain't it. Okay, so the two different women that you're talking about here, the woman that's trying to please God, and the person's out here just I'm not gonna say out here like that, but someone who doesn't necessarily hold those same morals and regards in terms of God being a center and God being the definition of why they're not having sex. That's two different women. And so somebody waiting 90 days is not the definition of me. Well, from my perspective, isn't a definition of somebody who's trying to have God as the center. That's not why you're waiting 90 days to have sex. You know what I'm saying? Like that ain't the same thing. All right. So that's the first thing. All right. Let's break it down more.
because he took a woman to Capitol Grill, he supposed to get something out of it, and that if she gonna wait to get in the bed with him, then he need to wait to spend money on her.
Now let's pause it right here. As I said before, the problem with Rico's argument is that the expectations are said silently, and that's the most dangerous thing because that's where danger happens, especially for women, right? Because men can get angry, violent, frustrated, and it can be a physical danger for women. But the reality is, we all have expectations. We need to stop pretending as if we do things for free. We don't. We do things with expectations. If I take you out on a date, I have an expectation of what I'm trying to do. Right now, of course, when let me be honest with you. There's some women I think, do you know what? You got a good vibe. I would love to go out dinner with you because I would like your vibe. I'm still getting something from it. My expectation is, and I'll tell you up front, listen, I like your vibe. I'm not trying to move to you. I just like your energy. I want to spend a bit more time with you. What I really want is your time. And I want your energy, right? Because you're good energy and good vibe and good time. Therefore, I don't mind spending money and take you out. I've made my intention clear from the jump what I actually want, right? What I actually want from the situation in this aspect, right? So there's always a transaction when it comes to situation. There's always a transaction when it comes to the situation between men and women. If I take a woman on a date, you have to make clear, or take a woman out for food or whatever, you want to take her out for somewhere. What is the expectation? Fiona says she ain't going to bed. And she's absolutely right. A lot of women might not go to bed. But do you know what the reality is? The problem is highlighting the food for bed. That's the issue that a lot of women have. I told you the game how it's played is that I'm not meant to make it so obvious. If I tell you I want to take you out so I can have sex with you, that sounds so crude. That's the problem. If I tell you I'm going to take you out because I want sex, that's so crude. And I told you about the game that both people, you know what I mean? How we play it. Y'all want me to act nice so we can get a slice. Okay? Y'all want to act nice so we can call it a slice. And that's the reality of the situation, right? So the problem isn't the expectation itself. The expectation is, how is the expectation delivered? Because if I have a conversation with you and I say to you, look, I ain't gonna lie to you, you're a very pretty girl. I'm gonna be honest with you though, I'm not really on a relationship tip. I'm on a sexting. Yeah? I want to be honest with you, I'm on a sexting, right? Then the expectation isn't I take you out for food and I have sex. Now the expectation is, listen, I've told you what I'm on. If you're on it, roll with me. If not, don't roll with me. Do you understand? I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste my time. Or if you're on it, then you're on it. Then I'm on it. I'm on it. Then we all go. The problem comes from silent expectations that are said loudly, but no words have been uttered from the mouth. What that means is you take a girl on a date with a silent expectation that she's going to give you sex. But that's not everybody's rules. So you have to state it from the very beginning, which is why I said Rico's exact point earlier on was problematic in the sense of the fact that you didn't let the person know. Do you see what I'm saying? You didn't let the person know. So you have to, from the very jump, tell the person, hey, this is my expectation. I want sex. I'm not going to lie to you. I think you're great. I think you're amazing. I like you, but I just want to have sex. And the person can go, do you know what? I respect that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. Right? So, and this is where the lines get muddied up again, because me personally, from what I've experienced, um, from my experience, what I've seen is, if I just tell a girl that I want to have sex, the girl will tell me yes or no. Like, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for being honest. No. Oh yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm. You know what? I'm on the same thing, right? And that's very true African Astan as well. The reality is a lot of people are scared to lose this opportunity, but the reality is you don't know who's ready to get down. Look, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. Okay, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm saying that, listen, we should all be honest in our aspect. And when I say right thing to do from a Christian point and standpoint, but I'm explaining the reality of life. All right. So if you have to be honest and have the potential of losing. And again, if we're talking about investment, what Rico needs to also be honest about is the fact that if you're making an investment and the investor doesn't tell you all the risks that are associated with that stock, they're also mismanaging and doing you a disfavor. So if you go into a conversation with a lady and you tell her, hey, I'm looking for sex, right? If you don't tell her that's what you're looking for, you can't be told all the risks that are associated with the situation. When I say risk, in terms of the fact that this might not go the way you want it to go, because you are silently having expectations. You take a girl on a date, and then literally you're expecting her to give out. That's the bad expectation, because you've not said it out clear, right? That's the point, So yeah, that's a point that needs to be made. Okay, cool.
And that right there, that just broke boy talk. That just broke boy talk. That don't even make no sense. It's like how you take somebody out to eat and expect them to put their whole life on the line. Like when a woman lay down with a man, she could get up with a STD, sexually transmitted disease. She also getting up with a spiritually transmitted disease. She also breaking her covenant with God. She's sinning all the way.
Now, this is a part that it loses me too. I'm all about the Jesus. I'm all about the Christian. I'm all about the spiritual. But she can lay down and get an STD. So can everybody. Everybody can get an STD. You know what I mean? Everyone can get an STD. You may have one, and I don't even know. Do you know what I mean? Like the one time I got an STD was from a girl, so it's not from me. It's not me fucking around. It's from someone else doing what they were doing. Do you know what I mean? So it can come from anyone. So that's not specific to any woman. Like it sounded like he was making it almost sounded like he was making it specific, and I don't agree that. Spiritually transmitted disease, I don't believe in that either. What soul ties, I don't believe in that stuff. I really don't. It's not biblical. I've not seen it in the Bible. And when people try to make an argument for it, yeah, I can't see a strong enough argument for soul ties and sexually transmitted diseases. That don't make no sense to me. But what I would say is, have people said that spirits have been exchanged between people? Yes. Again, do I necessarily agree with that? I haven't seen that biblically. I don't know if that's agree. Again, I think that's something that we like to kind of speak on. But if you talk to if you talk to many African people who involved themselves in witchcraft, they will tell you that people that didn't have the covering of Jesus, when they did certain things to them, they could transmit certain things. So yes, they could some aspects, right? So that aspect. Now, the one thing that is specific to women that I agree with is pregnancy. You know, it's pregnancy. You know, um, uh, pregnancy is a real thing, right? Uh, so um, pregnancy in the aspect of um, that a lady having a child is a real thing. And the oftentimes what can happen is the emotional labor, the financial labor, and all that stuff that can have that child being predominantly on the woman's life. And so you get to walk away oftentimes and live your life, and she can be left with a child now. So that is one of the biggest things. And of course, STDs is a real thing. Anybody can get that. But yes, specifically the pregnancy aspects as well. So that's the aspect. Someone said soul ties are a real thing. I mean, I say soul tie a real thing, but no one's been able to actually give a strong enough argument for what soul tie is. Everybody gives an anecdote of what a soul tie is, but don't ever give a biblical example of what a soul tie actually is. Where do we see soul ties in the Bible? Like, where do we see it? And when I say soul tie, I'm talking about the fact that sex ties you to someone. And that now and some people go further to say, your life is influenced by them, affected by them, and did kind of. Where is that biblically? Okay, two become one is not necessarily a soul tie. Is that two are becoming one in terms of their mind, their heart, their soul, and the way they move, the way they think? Yes, but that's not what soul tie necessarily actually means in this aspect, or at least that's what I've understood of what soul tie is. Let me put it that way. But is there a biological tie? Yes, Selena, there is a tie that happens. Oxytocin is a real thing, yes, but that's not a soul tie. That's not necessarily a soul tie. But again, depends on what definition you're giving soul tie. You know what I mean? When I start hearing people saying you can sexually transmit diseases, I'm like, what the heck's that? What the heck is that? Yes. Do I have to be biblical for me to believe it? Absolutely. Yes. Yes. What else would I predicate the argument on? I'm a Christian, so what else can I predicate the argument on? There's a lot of things, and the reason why I say this is because what people don't realize is there's a lot of arguments that happen that come from people doing judge, black magic, Santa Maria, doing all sorts of things, and they bring it into Christianity, and yet that isn't what Christianity is about. And so sometimes the spiritual things that people talk about isn't necessarily attached to what the Bible talks about, and then people take it on without actually researching it. Where do we see this biblically? Again, where do we see this biblically? I love that. Thank you, Fiona. So you said, come on, you know those bad relationships you were in, you were feeling like a dung. Why is that? You were joining yourself with negativity. No, but again, that's not a soul tie. That's not the soul tie. If you're talking about something that is psychological, then I'm down with it. But calling it a soul tie is where I have an issue. Because again, from my understanding of soul tie, That's not talking about physiologically. You know what I mean? That's not talking about it physiologically. If we're talking about physiologically and psychologically, then I'm with you. If you're talking about the fact that you can be attached to somebody, right? And you feel, because what happens is begin to over spiritualize things. You are going to be attached to someone if you spend time with them emotionally, if you spend time with them mentally, if you spend time with them sexually, you're going to form attachments with that person. We are human beings and we're socially constructed to do so. I should say, even God made us such that we should not be alone. That doesn't just mean relationship, it means relationships with human beings. So we have the ability to form bonds and attachments physiologically, I should say, or should I say physiologically, psychologically, sorry, right? So we can form those attachments in that aspects. Even chemically, someone said it there. You're absolutely right as well. Chemically, we can talk about that as well, right? But then the issue I have is then what happens is we say go and fast and pray to remove the soul tie. No, what you need to do, okay, is just take some time away from that person, isolate yourself, and spend time on you. You know, because then it becomes a spiritual aspect. But it's like no, people go through that, you know. So that's what I'm trying to say in that aspect. It is not that. It is that you're psychologically connecting. Sorry, psychologically connecting with somebody on a mental note. You are connecting with that person. There are going to be ties with that person. Yes, right. And let me give you an example of something that I've heard in terms of soul tie, and you may agree or disagree. So it depends on depends on what you've understood about soul tie. That's why I'm not going to say categorically that you're absolutely wrong, but I'm saying it depends on what you understand by it, right? Yes, Jay, right, that's exactly what I believe. It is a very lazy way of doing it. As Christians, sometimes we don't understand things and we make it spiritual. That's my personal thoughts about it, right? And I'm not saying that about you guys in the chat, but I'm saying because the ideas come from people above us and our elders anyway. But let me just talk about this. Okay, cool. So um I remember a situation where my first ever girlfriend, right? First ever kind of girlfriend, I remember. And I remember, I believed in soul ties at this point. I remember at a point in time, we had broken up for like we had broken up for 3 months, like 2 months or so, right? And it was near Christmas, I remember. And I just felt like I was being attacked. All I could think about was my ex. And I went mad. You know what I'm saying? I went mad. I was like, blood, I'm going mad. You know? I was just going mad. I was just like, it's crazy. You see what I'm saying? And then I was thinking to myself, now I need to call her. So I called her, I belled her so many times. Don't ask me how many times. It was too many times to even think about. I was crazy when I was young, right? I called her way too many times. And eventually she picked up, all right? And eventually she picked up. And it was like, what's going on? I was like, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you, right? And then obviously after we went to speak to her, blah, blah, blah. And we had a conversation. And then literally I told her how I felt. She's like, I appreciate that. I've moved on now, so I'm good. I said, all right, cool. I appreciate it. Thank you. Heard me out after that. Done. I never had that attack again. I asked myself, what kind of attack was that? Right. But then I realized it's not an attack. Right. Number one, I'm impulsive. Number two, when thoughts come, the way I deal with certain things, and this is when you get to know yourself a bit better, the way I deal with certain things, right? Because I'm impulsive, the thought keeps coming until I say, stop, stop. I don't want to hear that anymore. Right? Let's go forward. Right. But that day I was just letting things come to me. Right. And so and I was like, oh, it must be a soul tie. I need to break the soul tie. I need to go and pray. I need to go and fast. You think people haven't broken up with their girlfriends before and not felt crazy after? It happens. Yes, Katie, thank you. That's precisely what it is. But because we don't understand the psychological terms, we make everything spiritual. Now, I believe I believe the psychological does explain components and parts of spiritual things that do happen. It's the understanding of some of those things. But a soul tie, I have issues because of the way that people add certain things to it. Oh, you need to fast and pray to break it. No, you don't. You need to go and spend some time alone, and you need to go and heal. You've got wounds that make you have different types of attachment that makes it look like you've got a soul tie. That's it. Right? exactly, Kenya. Because the example that people use as a soul tie, right, is annoying because it normally denotes sex. But the reality is, David and Jonathan had a better soul tie than anybody in the Bible, if you were to say soul tie, right? Then David and Jonathan would have a better soul tie connection than anybody else. These are two people, two boys who were super close, right? Super, super duper close, right? But no, so I think sometimes what happens is because we don't have the language for it, we bung it underneath spiritual because it's easier to explain it that way. But then we add superstitious things like, as a Christian, demons are now entering you when you have sex. It's like, oh, okay. And I'm not saying that this can't happen, by the way. I'm just saying that then we start adding things to it because we don't know how to explain what's going on. You're absolutely right. If I hang around, the Bible says evil communication corrupts good morale. If and that's simple. If I hang around with negative people, more than likely I'm gonna have negative thoughts that are gonna lead to negative actions. It's not a soul tie though, in the way that we understand it. So that's what I'm saying. So I'm not saying that um, I'm necessarily saying everything's wrong about it, but I'm saying it starts when it starts getting silly. You know what I mean? It starts getting silly because we start then applying spiritual problems or spiritual solutions to a problem which is just practical, you know? So it's perfectly imperfect. I hear you. I do. But then how do you back this up biblically? And this is my issue with us as Christians. I'm with you. But how do you back it up biblically? Because you're not talking to an atheist who doesn't believe in the God that you believe in. I'm saying to you, I believe in the God you believe in. I believe in Jesus being a Lord and personal Savior. But how do you back this up biblically? Other than that, it becomes an idea, right? That God could have given us. Because it doesn't have to be explained necessarily by scientists or doctors. But has God spoken about this soul tie situation? No. But we added it because of our understanding, So that's what I'm saying to you. That your argument, I hear you, but it should be based on the Bible. Otherwise, everything can go. You know what I'm saying? Everything can go. So I'm not saying that you're necessarily absolutely wrong, but I'm saying if we want to prove it, let's bring the Bible in so we can actually understand it, so we can get a focal point to begin to break it down, and begin to then unearth it in the way that we should do. I think that's how we should operate from a space. We should be Bereans in that aspect. So again, just saying that if you have that point of view, fantastic. Let's bring it biblically to a point so we can explain it as well, right? Otherwise, it just becomes a scare tactic. You sleep with someone, you're going to get demons, sexually transmitted, spiritually transmitted diseases. You know, so stuff like that. That's what I'm saying. Again, yeah. But I appreciate the conversation as well, guys. Hopefully, I'm not being too harsh in terms of my response and rebuttal on this, just because I understand we have different points of view. I don't want to be necessarily dismissive completely of anyone's point. Rather, just want to just focal point on saying let's focus on the Bible then being a definition for us as well. So also, the Bible has transliterations and translations, so it may literally be lost in translation. Okay, but then it's lost in translation, so we can't prove it still. Let's go by what we see on the Bible page. If I now tell you that it's been lost in translation, the book of Judah, sorry, or Mary Magdalene wrote a book, so I should consider that too, I can't. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, or if I say, listen, it's lost in translation that actually um that Jesus isn't the son of God. Like, we can go there in all those aspects, but then again it would again be back to what I'm saying. You know, it would again go back to the whole point of I'll go back to the whole point of, like I said, anything can go in that aspect as well, you know. So yeah, yeah, okay. Cheers, guys. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. Let's go further.
Way against God, regardless of what her religion is. She's sinning against her God, getting into bed with a man that she's not married to, all because the man took her out to get something to eat. It's like, how you gonna equate the act that can bring about a baby, that could bring about an STD, that could bring about all this other stuff, sin for going out to eat? Man, y'all talking crazy. It's like we in a society of punks. Oh, cucumber and the booty men out here sitting out here pretending you like women, sitting on podcasts saying stupid stuff.
And this is where Tony kind of lost me. Tony kind of lost me on this part, right? Because again, like I said, I'm all for down for rebuttals, but I hate this type of rebuttal. You know, we tell the women that they shouldn't be, like, you know, saying that we're gay. You know what I mean? Like we tell the women that they shouldn't be saying that, and then Tony comes out and says, you know, oh, cucumber in the boot hole, da, da, da. Like, that kind of language is not what we want to see when we're having rebuttals with men to men. Do you know what I mean? I love Tony's work, by the way. By the way, I think Tony's work is great. So this is not an indictment on Tony's work. This is simply just one video that he's talking about, and one thing. I just don't like that rhetoric. I don't think I don't think it benefits us. And then it also encourages other women to use that verbiage and that language and that rhetoric towards men. So then us complaining about, you know, women maybe disrespecting men by saying they're gay or whatever, right? Is the same kind of thing, you know, that we say women shouldn't do. You know, so then if we do that, how then can we check the women for saying that against other men? It's disrespectful. And I think that was disrespectful from Tony, rather than just saying, listen, bro, I think, you know what, I think your points are X, Y, Z. I don't like that. And that's not my point of view, you know. And so, you know, so and again, what he's describing again is from a Christian take, and I agree with him. Any woman, you know, kind of, I guess, quote unquote, like I said, fornicating, want to call it that aspect, will be sinning against their God. But remember, not everyone has our God. Not everyone has a God that we believe in. So, but I totally hear what he's saying. He's coming from a Christian perspective as well. So, you know, I think this is very important just to highlight that point, because a lot of the points that he said, I actually agreed with. But again, context is very important. The woman that he's talking about isn't even the woman that Rico's talking about. So the angle he's even coming at, you know, the angle he's even coming at, because he started off with that angle of, you know, 90, you know, the woman, you know, sleeping with somebody is a sin against their body. Yeah, but he's not talking about that woman, you know. But, you know, so, but I agree, you know, anybody out there should be aware, you know, that, you know, should be aware that when we, um, anybody out there should be aware that, you know, when we are discussing these issues and discussing things and we disagree, you know, the insults don't help the conversation. You know what I mean? Such as us as intellects as well. I think Tony Gaskin's definitely an intellectual man, emotionally intelligent. Definitely that, you know, I look up to his work. So not at all, not a beef at all. But yeah, I think with Rico's comments that he made in this situation, he's dealing with several things that are unsaid that need to be said, to be fleshed out. And yes, this Queen Quit said they're talking about a meal for sex. Yes, it's called a transactional aspect of a relationship, and we all do it in some sense or shape or form. It's just whether you're willing to say it or not. You know, are you willing to say it or not? Right. So yes, whether it's the meal for sex isn't the issue. The issue is the silent expectation. Right. That's the biggest issue. If you want um if you want to have sex with somebody, you've got to let them know. If you want a relationship, you got to let them know. That's my biggest issue. That's my biggest gripe with it, right? And then how that comes about in the in between, that's y'all's business. You know what I'm saying? Whether you fly the person out, whether you go dinner, whether you go bowling, whether you go skiing, whether you go skating, whether you go to the park, however you decide that's going to be between you two, that's you. But it's you stated your intentions clear as well. All right, guys. You know, you know, what about the price of dinner? Does that factor in? What about the price of dinner? Does it factor in Ruth's Chris versus Chipotle? Do men think that it's more expectation based on the amount they spend? I would say, I would say that there's a few men out here, there's a few men who I would say, I'll say that there's a few men that will try to make a correlation between how much they spend and what the expectation is. So I take you out for a 200, 300 pound dinner. What do you expect is going to happen? Here's my biggest gripe with this. It's still a silent expectation because everybody has their financial limit or sky that they have. You know, every woman isn't the same. Some will say £200 for me is a lot of money. Some will say £400 is a lot of money for me. Some might say 500 is a lot of money. There's so many different ranges. So paying for an expensive dinner and expecting sex is the biggest issue because you're a silent expector. You should open your mouth and say it, right? And come out clean. But again, coming out and saying it might make you lose the prospect. So the reality is you gotta play the game, right? But then if you play the game, you can't cry when the game doesn't work out the way you want it to go out. If you want to be silent in your expectation and she turns around and uses you for the money that you put in, you've also cost yourself the issue. You've also caused yourself an issue because you didn't say what you actually wanted. Then you can't blame her too for her also too going, well, you know what? You didn't say nothing. So me, I took my free meal. You know? So everybody has to open their mouth and say something. Yes, something like an overnight stay is considerably different, right? If I say, come, I want to do a 2-night stay with you, we're going to be in the same bed or whatever, then you might want to be thinking, he could be thinking something, right? But again, it's still a silent expectation. You could be thinking something. But again, it's a silent expectation. I don't like silent expectations because they cause the biggest, loudest consequences of noise. Right? Listen, I remember I tell you a story. I remember I told one girl, listen, I'm on a sex thing. I can't lie to you. This is what I'm on. I remember I told one girl this, right? Back in the day. I told one girl this, I'm on a sex thing. I can't lie to you, bro. I'm on a mad thing. You know what I mean? I'm on here for getting the pussior. Right? I'm on here getting the pussior. And that's all I'm really coming for, right? So, and then so obviously she came around the crib, we chopping it up and vibing, Got to a point, girl's not on it no more. I was like, all right, cool. That's not what she wants to do. She's like, realized that's not what she really wants to do. She actually just wants to just vibe and chill. I was like, cool, we can vibe and chill, but I don't need to do this again because I told you my expectation. You've now told me yours. You agreed at the beginning, but you've now changed your mind. Fine. I'll go about my way, you go about your way. This just like you just have to be real with the situations and what it is. Because anytime you don't say anything, you get pissed off. You can't be getting pissed off about things you ain't really. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? That's passively aggressive. You know? I don't want to see that from anybody, you know. I don't want that as well, you know. And also I want to say, yes, it says the ladies aren't getting doled up spritzing for a walk in the park. You know. So everyone has to also be real, and I'm just talking from the men to men. I'm saying like, if you're gonna be honest, if you're gonna be playing your game, just be real about it, bro. You know. No. We didn't have sex, Ren and Rem. I said she didn't want to have sex in the end. You know what I'm saying? So she changed her mind, and I said, cool, right? She wants to chill instead. I said, well, that's cool, but I don't really want to chill. I had one thing in mind. I don't want to chill. It is what it is. You go your way, I go my way. Nobody should be mad. And also women shouldn't also be mad if a man tells you what his expectation is, right? And then you're like, oh my god, like, oh, he told you expectation. Beat it. Go your way. Bruiser needs to be Bruiser needs to be stopped. Uh, Bruiser needs to be stopped, boy. We need to get Bruiser off that, set expectations, and like I said, you start to realize, um, you know, that a lot of people really do want the same thing you do. A lot of people want the same thing you do. You know, I don't want to be manipulative. I don't want to have to be like, we all know there are certain things like come for Netflix and chill, what it really means. We all know, okay, Netflix and chill is now universal code. Okay, we know that now, right? We know that, it's Netflix and chill is now a silent code, but it's a universal code that's now spoken by most people. Therefore, it's no longer a silent expectation. If I say come from Netflix and chill, I have to even say no. What I really mean, Netflix and chill, right? You see what I'm saying? Um, you know what I mean? So every person has to be honest about what they actually want from the situation, boys and girls. You get me? Um, you know, and be that. You know, that's what it should be. Bruiser, shout me, bro. We'll have a live and discuss that, bro. I have to chat out whether I agree with it. I don't know, but I would love to hear those thoughts. I would love to hear those thoughts. Um, that's very true. No. I can agree. I can agree with that. I can agree with that. I can agree with this particular point where she makes that it's easy to detect exploitation when a man is involved, or when a man's money is involved, but exploitation is never a factor when it comes to women's bodies. Yeah, that's fair. And that's a fair point to make. I think a lot of men struggle to see how it can be exploitative, or I should say, even manipulative, right? To take you out on a date with a silent expectation, hoping that this and blah blah blah. It's the same way as knowing that when a girl doesn't like you and goes to eat your food. Do you know what I mean? Like, you should be able to tell the difference. You should be able to see the difference for both sides, but because of privilege, it makes it very hard for a lot of men to see it. But I agree. You shouldn't be able to not see that as well. Um, as well. So I definitely see that as well. And that's Coco, and that's the okay. So Coco, what you've explained there. Okay, let's just make it clear. So Coco, in that, are you expecting a relationship though? Because you didn't put relationship in there. So I want to just see something so I can understand. So is this all encompassing a relationship, or is this are you saying you're setting the standard for how it would be to get you to a place where you feel comfortable to be able to have sex with someone, right? Does that require a relationship? Because you said here we want dinners, affection, love, laughter, prayer, trips, and then maybe sex. And I can say, well, maybe I can supply that, but I don't want a relationship. I just want the sex aspect. So I can supply the emotional support, the emotional care, I can connect with you mentally. I can take you on dinners. I can give you, physical affection as well. I can show you an aspect of love. You know what I mean? Um, Laughter. I can give you we can pray and all. I mean, prayer. The prayer part is going to be a bit mad. And then I thought it said tips, but it said trips. So that's my bad. My brain was missing up there. Trips. But do you need a relationship to do that? I'm asking that question. Okay, so that encompasses a relationship. So again, that would be then what your standard is. Makes sense. Yes, at the beginning, a lot of women did fall for it because um, a lot of women did fall for that because again, there were silent expectations being said, and this is also for ladies as well. It's good to you know, to if you can expose the expectation, so you know as well. So yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Bridget Nee said, conversation, respect, kindness, and generosity. That's what they're looking for. Okay. Okay. I hear you. I hear you. Master Bruiser. Yes. Okay. You say no man is doing all that unless he's tricking a woman or out his girlfriend. Well, not necessarily. Emotional F boys. Emotional F boys, you know, we can do all of that. Okay? Emotional F boys can do all of that. Just want to be very honest with you. Okay? So, you know, if you've been an emotional F boy before, which I know I have, we love everything that Coco said, we love it all. We want to spend time with you. We want to be invested in you. We want to, you know, talk to you. We want to massage your scalp. You know what I mean? We want to take your braids out. You know what I mean? We want to do all that. Emotional F boys do everything a boyfriend would do or a husband would do, but they just don't want to give you the commitment. And it has to be on their time. Do you get it? That's what makes them dangerous. It's on their time. So although you may, let's say for instance, you may message me and say, I want to spend time with you today. I might say, no, I'm not ready today. Then I might hit you up 2 days later, be like, are you free? Let's spend the whole day together. And you'll think that the person really cares about you because they're willing to do all that time and spending with you, but they're controlling when you spend that time together in most cases, or how you spend that time together. All right. So, you know, emotional F